You guys did such a nice job coming in and getting quiet. I hate to stop you, but I'm going to ask you to take your personal reading books and put those aside for right now. And then I'm going to talk with you about what we're going to be doing today, and then we're going to go ahead and get started.
Excuse me. Send Evan Brewer to the main office.
Yes, I can. Evan Brewer, main office. So you guys go ahead and get situated, ready to listen. Evan, I'm just writing you a pass real quick. There you go, hon. All right. Did everybody have a nice long weekend? Yeah, it went fast, didn't it? Okay. You guys had 4 days off. That was awesome. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to do a lot of different activities where we're kind of looking at our unit theme. And who can remind me, what's our unit theme again?
Acceptance.
Acceptance, right. All right, so we're going to kind of talk about acceptance. And do you remember what we said, what your group's definition of acceptance was? What did you say that meant?
I don't think I was here.
You don't think you were here for that? What do you think acceptance means?
To be accept, if people don't want to exactly change you, just like you for who you are.
Okay, so you don't have to change people like you for who you are. What were some other definitions you said for acceptance?
To be included.
To be included. What were you going to say, Allie?
Part of someone or something.
Part of something, right? So we just started that unit, so we don't have a really great, huge understanding of what that means yet. And we're going to look at a lot of different texts that kind of relate to that. And we spent time on Thursday reading an E.E. Cummings poem called Old Age Sticks, and we talked about that a little bit. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through some various activities that kind of relate to our acceptance theme. And looking at how different authors take a similar subject and use different, things like art or informational writing, different things like that to kind of talk about a similar subject, but how do they get their message across? So we'll kind of be focusing on that. So in our writer's notebook today, we're going to do a little bit of word work with some of our vocabulary words we learned last week. And we're also going to take a look at a piece of art, because art can be seen as a text too, something that you view and look at for information and evidence. And then we're actually going to watch a short little clip today. And you'll have a critical viewing question that you will do with your groups. And the big chunk of what we're doing today is going to be reading an article called Stereotypes and the Older Worker. And we're going to be reading that informational piece, looking for key ideas, doing some guiding questions to kind of help us think about this topic and how it kind of fits together, and all these texts kind of work together to help your understanding of our big topic of acceptance. All right, so what I need you guys to do for me right now is open up your writer's notebook if you haven't already done so. And the first group of things we're going to do is going to be table talk. So you're going to be at your tables, and then later on, after that, we'll move to our small groups. Okay. So go ahead and put the date in your notebook. It is 11/12 today, and this is our word work. And there are two questions. I put the poem that we looked at on Thursday over here on the side, just so you can see the actual text again as you're answering these questions. The first question relates to that text, so I do ask you and your groups to reread, go back to that as you're answering the question to help you. It says, last week we read the poem Old Age Sticks by E.E. Cummings. What are some ways that the old and young debase one another in this poem? Debase is one of our vocabulary words. So at your table, maybe the first thing you're going to have to do is have a conversation about, what does debase mean? And if we don't know, we might need to get our syllabus out and look at that. And then the second thing, I'm actually going to put a picture at your tables once you start working. There's going to be a painting called Para Siempre by Octavio Ocampo, and using details from this painting, I want you to look at it as a group, kind of critically analyze it, and answer the question, what do you think the artist is saying about the old? Okay, so what you want to do at your tables right now is you want to have a conversation about the first part. What does debase mean? Make sure you all know, and then work together to answer that question. And then I'm going to come around and put the picture on your desk so you can work on that. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, go ahead and get started with your conversations.
Debase, what do you think
Yeah,
debase means?
that's good.
To lower.
Here's your picture. Yes. Yeah, so it's right there.
So,
Here's your picture. Okay.
that poem we read last week, right? That one. So what are some ways that the old and young debase one
Here, you
another in
guys,
the
that's your
poem?
picture.
So like bring
Okay,
down
so when you get to that, you guys can look at that.
Well, it says like youth yanks them down, so that'd be like bringing. I think that remember they like put up signs.
Brady, can you make some space?
They like put up signs in the community, and then the youth yank them down. So that would be like debasing them, like they're like taking down their property. Also, it says the youth like laughs at the old.
Did you guys figure out what debase means? What does it mean?
Lower in status,
Okay.
quality, or
So
character.
lesser than you.
So
So then you guys have to think of some ways that the old and young debase one another in the poem. So then you gotta look back at the poem and see if you can pull some specific lines from the poem that relates to that. Okay?
you have the poem.
So it's right, you got there, and I
said
have it
poem.
in the corner too, so you can look at it.
It says if. Oh, okay.
So are you guys going back? What did you guys figure out debasement?
Young yanks down the old age
All right,
cries
so
no.
bring someone down, and you have to go back and did you
So-
guys reread the poem again? Did you? Because you have to
Like
pull
they're
some
taking
text
down
from it, some
like they're not
specific examples,
appreciating
right?
them, and
Okay.
yeah, they take them lower. They don't appreciate them as much.
So you guys thinking of examples right now?
Should we put
Trying.
young
Yeah. Okay. So you could put that down.
does not? Oh,
Did you guys answer
Yeah.
the first question? Yeah. Okay. And
we'll say what the
notebooks?
elderly, because that's what the poem's about. So like,
So what did you
the
guys say? Debasement.
old or the elderly does.
To bring down. Okay. So what were some ways that you guys said, like the old and the young debase one another?
Like the young don't listen to the old, and the old try to get them in line.
Did you guys look back at the poem and do a specific example, like line from it?
The youth yanks them down, so they're like taking down their signs. That'd be debasing them.
Okay. How?
Bringing them down, like bringing down their signs. It's like disobeying them.
Okay. Okay, good. And are there any other places in there where you guys could see examples of that?
Yeah.
Maybe find another example too. That'd be great.
Okay, so what's your debase means? What did you say, Matt?
Debase means to bring down.
Did you guys define debate? Did you go back to the poem
and then
and
show
try
examples
to
would
pick
be
a line or a couple
yanks them
examples from the
down.
poem of specific places where it looks like people are debasing one another? You did? Okay, so share that maybe with your group, Carl. That'd be awesome.
And another example would be, how about youth?
So go.
Youth laugh.
Okay.
Huh?
Good. So you
Laugh.
did you guys define what debasement?
Okay, so then let's go back to this number 2.
And then did you guys answer your first question?
The young like make fun of the old, and the old like scold them like all the time, and it's sort of like embarrassing.
Okay. Did you guys cite like a section from the poem that kind of related to what you guys were talking about?
How like the youth laugh at the old, but then it says like the old scold at them.
Okay, good. Make sure you guys have that written down for number 1. That's great.
So number 2, look at the picture.
Did you guys answer number 1 all the way? Let's see. So what did you say debasement?
It means to lower the status or like to lower their.
It's to make them feel like lower than they really are.
All right. right, Madison, what from the poem did you guys say was an example of debase?
We said,
Young.
yeah, they're like disrespectful. They like yank down their signs and they put up. And they said that they like scold them for them to stop. They're trying to like control them, but they don't really listen to them.
All right, awesome. Did you have any other places in there? So you had which part up here? You had the youth yanks them down, right? And then what was the other part you said?
And scolds them for them to stop.
Okay, awesome. Great job.
All right, number 2, look at the painting. Paris seem brave, but have you accomplished? Using the details from the painting, explain what you think the artist is saying about the old.
At one point they were young. Because look, that could be the girl.
They all have like a little young, like in them, kind of.
Yeah, like they all have like a past of them being young and
The youth grows on.
What did you say, Marcel?
the old says a lot of things like they forbid the youth to like touch the signs because they take them down. The youth doesn't really appreciate what they're doing because they don't understand they're not adults yet.
Yeah, that's good elaboration on that first line you guys pulled out. So I would just, once you get done with that second one, I would ask you to maybe kind of reread that poem again and see if there's any other line besides just that one you guys could pull into that, and that would be great.
Okay.
But I'd like your explanation definitely of the first one because it explains what debase means. So good job.
Okay, so we'll add in the
Now,
line.
you
real
guys,
quick.
can you listen for just 1 second? When you're looking at that picture, I know you're going to be tempted to like say a lot of things like what you're seeing and things like that. Remember the guiding question, what it's asking you. It's saying, using details from the painting. Okay, that's like taking, like when we take evidence from text, that's the same thing you're doing with this painting. If you say you think this is saying this about the old, you have to back that up with something that you see visually. I went around to the different tables and you did a good job, a lot of you, with the first question, actually taking a line from the E.E. Cummings poem to support what you're thinking. I want you to do the same thing with that painting there. Probably just about another minute and a half, and then I'm going to call in some people to kind of see what your responses are and kind of share our thinking. Okay, so you guys can continue.
Do this in the eyes of the old. Oh, but it says that we need a line from the poem to match.
So are you guys figuring this out? So what are you guys thinking so far?
That their memories are inside like here.
Okay, so remember, then go back to the question where it says, what is the artist's message and like what do you think his point of like making this like painting would be?
We said like to show that the old doesn't feel as old as they actually are.
Oh, that's interesting. And then
These are their memories, and they still feel young.
oh, cool. I like that. All right, very good. Nice work.
Okay, so if like the
How are you
question would
guys
be
doing
like
on
what
this?
evidence would be like back here, right?
Yeah. You are?
So if I'm gonna say in the back of the picture. Our memories.
Probably just about another 30 seconds or so. A lot of you are just finishing up your writing of that second question.
Because, like, it shows them, and obviously they were still seeing each other like that, is what I can tell. So it's like, it feels like it goes by so quick, but they don't realize how, like, boom, you're all over here.
What did you guys say for your second part?
Kind of, not really. No. Yes, no.
You put something, you added something else to that too. What did you say?
I put down like it kind of like shows them something who they were when they were younger, and that they always see, like, even though like when they grow old together and they see like different generations, they see themselves as who they are, not like how they grow up.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Make sure you have something from the picture visually to back that thinking up, okay?
inside America.
That the young is still inside the old because of the picture. It shows how the younger versions of them are.
Younger people are reflections of the older people.
All right, about 10 seconds.
Yeah. I said that first. I didn't agree with you. I was saying that for like half an hour, and then you made me differently worse.
Because it's like,
What do you?
All right, you guys did a very nice job in your groups talking with one another, and when I came around and challenged some of you to add a little bit more to your thinking, you did a nice job with that. So we're going to do whole class share right now. I'm just going to randomly call on some people. So, just explain what you said and kind of elaborate a little bit on your thinking, okay? And who can remember when we're sharing whole class, what are some of the things we need to keep remembering to do?
To listen to the other person that's talking.
Yeah, so how do I know you're listening to me when I'm talking, Mike?
When you make direct eye contact and you're looking at them.
Cool. What else should we remember? Anything else we should remember, Amity? Not to talk, right? Make sure we're focused on that. So can everybody show me that they're really focused? They're not into anything else. They're looking up here. Looking pretty good. Okay. Tiara, what does the word debase mean?
Yes, the old debases the young age by putting up the keep up sign. The young debases the old by trespassing and disrespecting them.
Okay, right, so I'm going to ask you to repeat that in a minute, but my first question is, what does debase mean, that vocabulary word, exactly? So if you were debasing someone, what might you be doing?
Being rude.
You might be being rude, because what does debase mean?
Like disrespectful.
Right, Tony, you want to help out?
it's like a lower stature, like when you hurt someone that's kind of mean and bad.
Okay, so like you kind of make one feel like a lower status, right? You're kind of mean to them, because like she was saying like rude or bad. What are you going to say, Abby?
I was gonna say like put them down. Like maybe you'll be like, oh, like you'll talk to people that they want to hang out with, and you'll be like, don't hang out with her or him, and then they'll come and ask, and they'll say no. Like telling them that to like let them be involved.
Yeah, because when we were talking about acceptance, you guys were talking about like the lunchroom, and you were saying things like, like when people will be like, there'll be empty seats at a table, and someone will come, but they're like, oh, there's no room left, or something like that, or you'd like kind of exclude people from your group, so that's a good connection. I like that. Okay, so Tiara, you then read some things from the poem that were examples of debase. Can you tell me your first example from the poem that you think is a piece of evidence that would be showing someone debasing someone, and then tell me why?
So read this one? Or
Yeah, so that first part you had.
Okay, the old debases the young age by putting up a keep off sign, and young debases the old by trespassing and disrespecting them.
Okay, good. So let's look at here. So you think's down the keep off signs, right? So the old age are sticking up. So how is that showing debasing?
By how they were just being disrespectful by taking down the keep off sign from the old people.
Okay, very nice. Good, thank you. Now, did anyone have a different place? As I was going around, a lot of you, which makes sense because it's the first part of the poem, you noticed right away, oh, that's an example of debasing, people are yanking signs down. Did anyone get further into the poem and cite another a specific example of text that would support this thinking? Aaron?
It says the youth laughs at them. So that'd be like debasing them because they're making fun of them.
Okay, good, excellent. All right, so now let's move on to this because I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this painting. So what I want you to tell me is what you think is like the artist's message. What's he saying about the old, and how do you know that? Okay, I'm calling someone. Absent. I'm getting absent people. Allison, can you tell me what your group said about that painting?
We said that the older people are like on the outside of the young, because in the picture it shows the younger people are in the older faces, and they're seeing themselves like grow up and see what they're doing to the old.
Okay, can you explain that part? I liked when you said they're like outside of the old. Can you elaborate? Like, what do you mean by that exactly? I like that thinking.
Like the older people, they're looking at each other, and the young are inside them, and they're watching themselves, kind of.
Okay, so who are the young people then inside these old people's heads, do you think?
They're kind of not appreciating the old, like they're having fun, and yeah.
Okay, that was good. I was just kind of challenging you a little bit to kind of think about that. I like that. All right, let's hear another example. Sanaya, what did you say?
I said like the old still longs for youth by having like the young boy singing to the girl in their faces.
Okay, so how do you know, what makes you think that they're longing for youth?
Like they still, I'm basically like there's still youth inside of them, so even when they're like old and brittle, they still kind of have like that free spirit that's inside of them.
Like the playing the music and singing to a girl? Okay, awesome. So do you think these young people, who do you think those young people might be?
I think they're the old people.
Okay, so how many of you thought that the young people were like the young versions of the older people? All right, cool, nice. All right, someone want to share a little bit more about the paintings I didn't call them but would like to share? Okay, good. Does anyone know what para siempre means? Para siempre. Won't be like a literal translation. Anybody? It means forever, always. Okay, so now think about that. If you know that it means forever, always, take a minute and just turn to the people at your table and say, think about why that's a good title for this piece right here that you see. So forever, always, and then talk just a minute, kind of table talk about why is that an appropriate or a good title for this piece. And I'm going to call on somebody randomly to make sure we're having that discussion, okay? Got a minute on the clock.
Probably always be always young. No matter how old or young you are, you're still the same person.
Yeah. It's good.
Maybe it's a young one.
Wait, what?
Forever, always.
30 seconds.
Probably means that like they'll always like forever. They'll always have like the brain of like the young or whatever.
Yeah. Same like person.
Young in themselves.
All right, 10 seconds. I'm glad that you guys, like, the voices just picked up right when I asked you. That was awesome. Owen, what did your group say?
We said that, like, they're always forever young because they always have, like, in this picture, they have a younger version of themselves, or, like, I thought they had a younger version of themselves inside the older versions.
Oh, wow, okay, very cool. And that expression, who's heard that expression, forever young, before? You ever heard that before? I hear that all the time. Maybe you hear it when you get older, I don't know. Forever young, okay, what do you think forever young means?
I think it's saying like even though like you can like become old in age, like you still have like youngness inside of you.
Okay, cool. All right. How does this picture compare to kind of like the message that E.E. Cummings was giving us? So let's talk for a minute. What was the main message you think of E.E. Cummings' poem? This is kind of an off question. I'm just asking you. It's not up there or anything. But Abby, what do you think the main message of E.E. Cummings' poem was?
I think the main message was like they will always be old and they will always be young, and like the young should look up to the old because they like created they kind of created what they have.
Okay. What makes you think from the poem that he wants the young to look up to the old?
Owing the old. He says owing the old.
Oh, okay, good. So owing down here, owing the old. So yeah, when you put that with it, that totally makes sense because you're saying, yeah, the young, there's all this stuff, this conflict, but you say owing the old is the part that makes you look up to them. Okay. So how is this message different in the painting then? Who can answer that one for me? So what do you think?
It's like different in the painting because like in the painting it's not much like conflict between the young and the old. It's more like they're together and like even though they're old they're still young, so it's like they want to be young and old.
Very cool. All right, so that's showing us, we can have two different like creators or authors, having a similar topic, but then maybe a different perspective on it. And that's really the focus of like what we're doing today throughout, you're going to notice. All right, so we have to do a little transition time, so listen carefully to what we're going to need to do. I'm going to need one person to volunteer to collect all the pictures for me. Tiara, why don't you do that? And then I need the notebook collectors to put the notebooks away. And then I need my handout helper. Who's my handout helper? You can help Tony too, but who else is the handout helper? Owen and Tony, can you make sure everybody gets one of these? And then I will change this and then we'll get ready to get moving. So quick transition is awesome. Thank you. So close up your notebooks so the collectors can grab them quickly. Thank you. Yep, so you're going to get a little slip of paper from either Tony or Owen, and you're going to hold on to that because that's a critical viewing question that we're going to answer when we watch a short clip in a minute. But I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things. First, get a little background knowledge on some things that we're going to talk about. Thank you. Thank you, all my helpers. I appreciate it.
Did everybody get one?
Did everybody get one? Okay, you can give me the extras back, Tony. Thanks, hon.
All I got was a couple.
That's all right. You did a good job. Oh, look, you can give one more to Tiara. Thank you. All right. One other vocab-related question. Last week we talked about the word precept. Who can tell me what precept means? That's one of our vocabulary words. Precept. So you might have precepts about something. Do you remember? I know we just got them. And I know it's. What are you thinking, Abby? Well, let me say this. In our society, we have a lot of precepts about the way old people should act, and precepts maybe about the way young people should act. Evan?
Standards?
Kind of, right? And then I related it to geography when we were doing that activity about different customs and ways that you act like in different countries. So yeah, kind of standards. Can you add a little, who can add a little bit more to that? Besides standards, what else?
Expectations.
Kind of like expectations, okay? So take that idea. What are some expectations that we have for older people, do you think? And they can be a little stereotypical, but like when you're talking like with your friends or you think of older people, what are some precepts or ways of behaving that we think like older people should act? Allison?
Respecting them.
Oh, so you're talking, that's how young people should act? The precepts for the young would be respecting the old?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would we say though, what do you think, like older people, what would be a precept for them? Like the way maybe younger people would expect them to behave?
Like if we treat them right, then they should treat us right back.
Okay.
Like treat each other equally.
Okay, all right. Well,
They treat like they have to be mature.
okay, mature, right? I can't like run in here and just like on a unicycle and be all silly or anything like that, can I? All right, Evan, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say like they kind of have to like act right. They like you would expect them to behave more than like a 4-year-old.
What do you mean by act right?
Like if you saw like a 4-year-old like running around like screaming, you wouldn't expect an older person to do that.
Okay, all right, let's see, Naya.
Well, like, you usually think of like elder people not knowing how to use like the newer technology.
Okay, so she said older people don't really know how to use like the newer technology, so that might be, you might expect them to not be able to do those things. Oh, now we're getting some idea. Here we go, Avery.
I feel like older people should be like role models to younger people.
Okay, so like setting good examples, right? All right, anything else? Evan?
You know that thing about like old people like get off my lawn? I've actually seen that.
Like old people like yell out of their house and like say, "Get off my lawn, kids!"
Yeah, they're like in Washington, where I used to live. We were going by. I was going by on my bike, and there was this old dude who put like a lot of signs in his yard about like how he didn't like the mayor and how they're like running the city and everything.
Okay.
And then I see this one kid who's like and it looks like he was building his house like because it like wasn't like I don't know, like a normal house.
Right.
Because they had a door on the second floor that led to nowhere.
Okay,
like
relating it to what we're talking about with the precepts. So then what did this person do with the house?
so there was this kid like on his yard because he had this big ramp, and he was like going down it on his skateboard.
Oh, there
and
you go,
then
skateboards. There we go.
the guy comes out with his cane. He's like, "Get off my lawn!"
Oh my gosh, yeah, just like you see in movies and stuff like that. How many of you have ever been maybe yelled at or scolded by an older adult in public or something? Okay, let's talk about precepts for the young real quick. What are some precepts that you think society has for young people? Like maybe let's say teenagers, because you're all teenagers. Let's talk about that. What do you think?
Respect like the elder people, like your parents and teachers.
Okay, so that's what we want. We'd say, oh, they should be respecting their elders, their teachers. What else, Brady?
That they usually know how to use all the newest technology.
Yeah. A lot of times they're like really quick, if you need help on a computer or like video games or something like that, you can help out. What else, Michael?
Like that they're kind of stupid.
Okay, so what are you saying? Are you saying a precept is that teenagers are stupid, or like you think that's what people think? Okay, not true though, right? But that's like one of those stereotypical things. Why do you think that is something like you would say? Because some people kind of laugh, and I would never say that because, I work with teenagers and I think you guys are like some of the smartest, most intelligent, creative people I know. So why do you think that adults sometimes have this idea or stereotype that teenagers are not the smartest or things like that?
I heard my parents say it.
You hear your parents. Okay, so you just posed the question, all right? So what were you going to say, Anthony, to add to that?
They sometimes do stupid stuff.
What do you mean by that?
Like, they do things they'll get in trouble for, but they still do it.
Okay, all right. Evan?
A lot of times older people think that young, like teenagers are like just trouble.
Okay.
Like you see a group of them walking around, you might be like, oh, that's trouble.
Okay, so you see this real world connection of like this issue that we've seen like, in the E. Cummings poem, this like sort of conflict. And I wanted to talk about that because we're going to watch something called Mind the Gap. Now, Mind the Gap, you have to understand what that expression means because the critical question leads to it. Does anyone know what Mind the Gap means? Oh. Have you seen it before, Sanaya? Where have you seen it?
I was going when I lived in New Jersey in the apartment buildings, we had a train station right next to it, which was torture. But when I was walking to the car out in the parking lot, it would, at the train station, it would always say "mind the gap."
Yeah.
In between, so basically saying if you walk in it,
you're gonna fall in it, right? So yeah, this is like a term it's used on she's saying train stations or railway passenger cars. Be careful when you're crossing that space. And if you've been to Chicago and been on some of the trains there, the metro, you would know that, okay, when you're going from the platform to the actual car, there's this space here, and they're saying, mind that, watch it. You don't want to fall down there and get hurt, okay? So I did that because what we're going to watch is a clip from the Assisted Living Organization of America. It's a short film. They do a short film competition, and it's meant to kind of raise awareness of ageism, this whole stereotype that people have about people that are a little bit older and things like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to watch it. It's relatively short. And remember, whenever you're watching, it's not like you have the text right in front of you. So I gave you these little question sheets here so you can kind of jot down some notes to help with your discussion as you watch, because it goes by pretty quickly. It says, using evidence from the film, explain why you think the creators of this piece would use the warning "mind the gap" as their title. So you're going to be watching it, but you're going to be thinking the whole time, why did they call this "mind the gap"? Because mind the gap's kind of a warning. So be thinking about that because that's what your discussion is going to be about. So while you're watching, you're going to be independently answering that question and then kind of then talking about it as a whole group. Do this for a minute so you guys can see. All right, so let me get this set up. I think my sound is pretty good. I checked it this morning. So are you guys all ready to watch? Yeah. Good? Excellent. All right, yeah, so you can get set, and then when it's going, you can show that.
I saw the way he looked at me.
Like everyone my age is the same.
As if I had nothing to offer the world around me.
People that age will never see what I'm capable of.
Or what I have to offer the world.
They don't understand my enthusiasm for life.
The wisdom I have to offer the world.
The determination and drive.
I mean, I'd really like to help the guy.
Kind of looks like a loner.
I wonder if he's got a family too.
Care for him.
Show him the way.
If he'd give me a chance,
I'd listen to what he has to say.
Nice day for a run, eh?
come here every morning? I don't know why I try. People that age,
they're all the same.
I feel bad stopping before the credits go. All right, so what you need to do right now at your tables is you need to address that question that's on that little sheet of paper and try to pull specific things that you saw into your discussion, and so that way you can share them out with the whole group, okay? So go ahead, I'm gonna give you about 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes to go ahead and have this conversation.
Okay, so I think they were mind the gap.
Explain the gap. Explain the age gap.
Yeah, that's what I think they're saying, like the gap between their ages and between like their knowledge, you know. So I think we should say that mind the gap. So like the gap between their ages. The gap between their knowledge.
Realize just as much as they were. And
maybe they didn't help each other, but maybe there's some.
Maybe it's talking about like.
So yeah, so if
maybe
you
the
guys were
title is
writing that up, like
about,
say,
like,
and then I
in
was like gonna put
between
that to look at to see how
old and
you were
young,
able to
so
kind
like
of like get that
40?
message and like how you could relate it to what you saw. What specific things would you write down in your response? You guys might want to
Doesn't
actually write
mind
that
being a
down.
gap.
and say,
There's a
so like
gap
what could you
between
pull specifically
young
from the
and old,
film
so
that
it's
would
middle-aged.
relate to what you're talking about? You guys
Well,
know that?
it's like
So then
40.
try, and it's hard when it's visual and you don't have like actually like lines to cite. It's
like
kind of like when we were
40 or
doing the
30.
painting, you gotta actually look at it and then kind of describe like what you saw or what you heard.
No,
Okay,
40.
but that's good, I like that.
I think that the film used the title Mind the Gap.
I think it's called Mind the Gap.
Because, so what were we saying the gap is? Was it the age?
Yeah.
Or the mindset?
The age and mind.
Well, the mindset kind of goes with the age. I think the age is better because like it's a gap. The mindset isn't really a gap, but there's an age
Okay, so
gap.
yeah, what are they minding then?
It's the gap in their age. Make them
Alright, so what is the warning though? So it's a mind gap, the warning.
stereotypes, I'd
I love
say.
everything you're saying, you're absolutely right, with like the details, but I want you to think about then why call it like a warning? Like what is the creator of this piece like trying to warn people about? What's holding about?
Wait, what is stereotype?
Stereotype is like something you kind of like assume. Like the older person kind of assumed that the young guy wasn't
20
really
seconds.
listening or caring, but he just couldn't hear.
You guys talked about like why it leads to the mind the gap.
Yeah, like
like there's a big gap in between youth and old age, and then like they usually stay on pretty much like their own sides, and then like you don't want to go to a different side if you're like old, and you go into the young side, and then young side is like old.
Make sure you
like cross the line and make fun of
Right, so make sure, I like what you're saying, it relates to the warning. Can you pull something specific from the film, like that you saw or heard, that could enhance that a little bit to support it? That's what I'd like you guys to do now. Does anybody need a little more time, or are we good? You need a little more time? Okay. Make sure you're answering why it's called Mind the Gap. You know, Mind the Gap is a warning, so tell me what we're being warned about.
Being warned because... Wait, what's that to do with the warning?
Because in the train station it warns them that mind the gap. So what does it warn?
I get it. Okay. Or kind of like warns them. I don't really know. Well, it warns them about like how they act when like they see each other, not to be like stereotypical.
So like, just like live with it. Yeah.
All right. Can I have your attention back up here again? I heard some really great discussions as I was going around. Nice. Let's see. Emily, what did your group say about that question? So, you know, using evidence from the film, why do you think the creators call this or give this warning, Mind the Gap, as its title?
We said that they used Mind the Gap to like show like the gap in their age because they were like stereotypical towards each other.
Okay, so you think the gap, instead of like, you know, train platform, like, okay, it's the gap in age. Okay, so what's the warning you said? So there's this gap in age. I like that part. That's a good connection.
Excuse me, can you please send Michael Furness to the main office?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
So we have the gap that relates. Then what is the warning about?
Like that they're stereotyping each other.
And what evidence from the film shows, like, led you to believe that?
Because they kept saying that like they wouldn't care, like when they tried to talk to each other.
Okay, can we elaborate a little bit more? Someone else from your table that, like, you guys talked about, what evidence from that actual piece would show what Emily's talking about?
At like the end, they like turned and started walking away from each other, and they both said, "Why do we even care?" They never listen. They always think I'm different.
Okay, so what do you think the warning is, like the author's point or message of this? You're there. You're almost there.
That like they think that they're different.
Okay, that they think that they're different, so we've got to watch that. And then what do you want to add to that, Evan?
I was going to say they think they're different, but really both of them just wanted to talk, but neither of them could hear.
Okay.
Like the one time the old guy was trying to talk, the kid had his earbuds in, and then the other time he didn't have his little...
The hearing aid.
Yeah, the hearing aids.
Okay, very good. And see how you guys all work together to get that going? Awesome job. All right. So, very nice. What I want us to do now is have one person from your table kind of gather those up. I'll take those from you. We're going to get into small groups. I put the small groups up here. I just need you to get seated. Then I'm going to give you instructions. And then the good chunk of this remainder of time is going to be you working really hard on looking at a pretty challenging article related to this topic that we've been talking about today, okay? So if you forgot what your groups are, I do have them posted up there. They were the same groups you guys were in on Thursday. So if we could take this time, you're going to need something to write with and your belongings, make sure everything's packed where it needs to go, and head to your table locations, and then I'm going to give you instructions from there. Okay, good job.
I really want to tap it. I've been so ready to tap this thing. Just to see if I get the cat. Give it or not.
All right. And then as soon as you are seated and looking at me, I know that you are ready for instructions. Good, yeah, pack it now that you've moved, take your backpacks and put them back under the table for us. Thank you. It's hard for me to walk around. I'm gonna fall down. You guys know that's gonna be sad. You good?
Yeah.
Almost. We're there. And eyes up here. Okay, so I did all that stuff like with you guys at the beginning to kind of practice this idea of taking different things like poems, different pieces of art, you know, a video or a film, and how you can like take all of those things, kind of pair them up, and get a better understanding. You're going to get another format of the text today. In a little bit, I'll send one person from your group to go get the materials from your numbered folder. But in there, you're going to have a copy of I'm going to tell you guys, this is a really challenging article. Okay, so you're going to really need to work together to get through this. I mean, it's a pretty high reading level. It actually comes from a psychology journal. But it relates very much to what we've already been talking about in class, some of those precepts that we have about the young and the old, and also the different ways that maybe the young and the old debase one another, and you know, relating to that clip, that age gap. It's called Stereotypes and the Older Worker, okay? I want you to really work together through this. We know informational text can be very challenging, but we also know that it's really important because a lot of times that's where we get a lot of information about real world issues and things going on. So here's what's going to happen in your groups after you get your materials. The first thing you're going to do is go through the article and you're going to read it. I want you to use your annotation strategies of just, you know, underlining key ideas. You don't need to go crazy on it. I want you kind of going through and seeing if you can pick out, reading it together, what the key ideas are. You can read with stopping points if you want, or you can do reading aloud. Just remember, it's like we're at a restaurant. We don't want to be so loud that we're disrupting everyone around us, okay? Then, in your folder, there's also a set of guiding questions. These questions are going to lead you through some things to kind of help you think more critically about what it is you're reading, and also kind of help you kind of break it down and analyze and make sense of this piece, okay? So it's going to ask you things about credibility of the source. What does credibility mean? We talked about that before. If a source is credible, what does that mean?
Sort of if like you can like give them credit and they're like a reliable source that's like.
What was that word you just said?
Reliable.
Yeah, there we go. It's like a reliable, something trustworthy, right? Very good. There's questions on there relating to like the key idea, if you're able to grasp that. And also there's questions on there relating to comparing texts, just like we've done, and then making real world connections. And then there is a thinking critically and creatively piece on here, which I think is kind of fun when you get to it. I have two pictures of two heads here. And then it's your task is going to be to draw or place words in there of what you think is going on inside of a young person's head, okay? So today in your groups, I want to see the continuation of this great work that we've been doing, making sure that you're reading carefully, going back to the text.
Excuse this interruption. Will Carter Devine please come to the main office?
Going back to the text and reading the questions carefully, and then we'll be around to kind of help you as needed, but we want you guys to really kind of struggle through it and see if you can make sense of it. The last 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to call us back together, and then I'm going to kind of maybe call in some people, kind of hear your thinking about what you read about, and just have a little bit of closure for that. Does anyone have any questions about what we're going to be doing with the remainder of the time? Okay, I guess you need to select one person from your table and make sure you get your numbered folder that matches your number up there, and then you guys can get started, okay?
Who wants to get it?
Oh, you're probably
too tired.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go with it.
Are you gonna take on your? Have one person do like writing it out too, Brady, and then you can type up some stuff on your forte too, all right? You're gonna do your one on your. Are you doing it on your forte? You think? No, I'm already out. Yeah, just make sure you do the numbers for me so I can, when I look at it, I know what question we're doing. Okay.
All right, rock paper scissors. Rock paper scissors.
Well, everybody, get going. Everybody's writing because there's a sheet for everyone in there. You guys are going to discuss.
I'm afraid of walking that many feet.
Ah. See how magical I am? Now don't, if you're very artistic, don't start with that art piece. Just wait, okay? Start with the other stuff, and that's sort of your ending activity there. And I will see conversations, right, and discussions about how we're reading this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how are you guys in this group going to be?
Okay, so do we want to just like take turns reading it out loud, or yeah, let's just short a little paragraph. Okay, so I can read first. Okay, stereotypes in the older worker. Older employees get a bad rap in the workplace, according to this recent analysis. Wait, is this where it starts?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, of close to 400 studies about their performance, which finds that nearly all negative stereotypes about this group are unfounded. As the number of older workers continues to swell, the papers should suggest managers should reconsider widely held misconceptions that often lead to age discrimination.
In 2010, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 55% of U.S. employees were older than 40. By 2018, the 55 to 75-year-old segment of the workforce will increase by 11 million in a 2009 study predicted accounting for almost a quarter of the working population. Even before the Great Recession, older workers were postponing their retirement in larger numbers, and that trend has only accelerated since the financial crisis began.
But negative stereotypes can hinder these workers. Previous research has shown that managers typically favor youthful potential over experience. This bias not only has an practical effect on other workers' healthy quality of life and decisions about retirement age, but also provide costly for companies to find themselves facing age discrimination lawsuits or struggling to retain knowledgeable employees.
This paper examined 6 of the most common damaging stereotypes. Compared with younger workers, older employees are less motivated. Are 1, less motivated, 2, less willing to engage in training and career development programs, 3, more resistant to change, 4, not as trusting, 5, more likely to experience health problems that affect their work, and 6, more vulnerable to work-family conflicts.
The author found empirical support for only one of those stereotypes. Older workers, on average, are indeed less likely to engage in career development, an attitude that is fostered, at least in part, by the prevalence in training programs skewed to younger employees. The 5 other stereotypes are clearly
What's misconceptions mean? Like unfounded concept? Like unfounded concepts? I like that. I wasn't. I don't know exactly that. You said it perfectly, but I want you to even can you break it down even simpler than that? Like unfounded concepts. So if you have a misconception about something, what does that mean? It means unfounded ideas about certain people. Yeah. So Avi, what are you gonna say? Related unfounded. What does unfounded mean? Do you know?
They don't have like good ideas, like the best ideas. They're still ideas.
Okay. Well, keep reading. I think it'll explain a little bit of that as you guys get further into the article. But that was some good stuff. What do we all underline something like that we think is a key idea on that first part?
Negative
studies.
Okay.
To show how reliable it is.
Oh, did you guys hear what Carl just said? Say that again, Carl.
I underlined the 400 studies to show like how many studies they've done.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
You did that too? Awesome. All right.
And I also did negative stereotypes because I feel like that's probably gonna like be like how like, the old people are getting, or how like everybody has like stereotypes about it.
Awesome. Good.
And then I underlined age discrimination too. Okay, I'll read next. In 2010, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 50% of the U.S. employees were older than 40. By 2008, the 55 to 75-year-old segment of the workforce will increase by 1 million. A 2009 study predicted accounting for almost a quarter of the working population. Even before the Great Recession, older workers were postponing their retirement in larger numbers, and that trend has only accelerated since the financial crisis began.
I underlined the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They show that sounds important.
I agree, that's important.
A lot of misconceptions about older people, maybe from
What do misconceptions mean? Do you guys know? What is that word?
It means,
do you know what misconceptions means?
Misconceptions means like you have the wrong idea of something.
Okay, good. So make sure you guys were onto that. All right, keep going. Make sure you guys are taking turns reading and annotating when you go through them.
According to the U.S.
Older workers on average are indeed less likely to engage in career development, an attitude that is fostered, at least in part, by the prevalence of training programs skewed to younger employees. The 5 older stereotypes were clearly off the mark.
I don't know what any of them mean.
So what do you have to do when you read something and you're like, I have no idea what it means? Because they were like, you're a really good reader, and there were like some words in there that you were like stumbled on, right? So it's hard, like I said. So what do you do if you like read that and then you're like, I have no idea, just like tonight said? First off, I'm very proud of you for just saying, I don't understand that, because that's stage 1. Understanding if you know what you're reading. Matt, what would you do?
You can break it into chunks and read it and try figuring out what one sentence.
Okay, so maybe go a little slower, bring in chunks and go back and see if you can make some meaning out of it. And I noticed that you guys put a connection on your actual article. What did you guys say? Because that was like the kind of little extra thing you're doing there. So you were just doing the KVA. So what's your connection to this so far?
Oh, I had a connection. My mom's friend. Whoa. Her mom, she got fired because of her age. Like she was working at this clothing store, but they thought that since she was old, people wouldn't want to buy from her. She wasn't stylish or whatever.
Oh, so the old people are stylish, and then she got fired from her job.
She got fired because she was being kind of giving her hard tasks that were they were trying to you could tell they were trying to get her out, and then they fired her. And they didn't say because of her age, but she actually went to the court and told her that she got fired because of her age and
Oh, that's really interesting. Well, that is going to really play into this article as you're going to. That's good background knowledge that I have. I'm glad you guys wrote that connection. So go back to that piece, ladies, and see if you can kind of maybe make some sense out of that before you move on to your next part, okay?
Okay.
I don't even understand.
Yeah, okay. So wait, the authors found empirical support for only one of those.
What does empirical mean?
I think it means it would be so much faster. The authors found empirical support for only one of those. I think it means good good enough. Good because it's saying the authors found empirical support for only one of these stereotypes. That means one of them must be supported more than
first page here. What were some important key ideas that you guys have picked out so far that you think are important, with this really hard piece of text here?
Yeah, I think it's just saying it's more, the evidence they found is more supportive than any other evidence they could find.
Older employees get a bad rap in the workplace. What does it mean by bad rap?
It means they get they're people are tough on them. Yeah.
Okay, people are tough on them. Okay, good. And what else did you put in there?
We also put as the number of older workers continues to swell, this paper suggests managers should reconsider widely held misconceptions that often lead to age discrimination.
Okay, what does it mean by misconceptions?
The wrong idea. Sometimes people get the wrong idea about them, or like misjudging. Like,
Yeah. Okay.
Thinking the wrong thing about them.
Right. And then what else? Anything else on there?
And then compared to with the younger workers, older employees are less motivated, less willing to engage in training and career development programs, more resistant to change, not as trusting, more likely to experience health problems that affect their work, and more vulnerable to work and family.
So what does that mean in your own words?
That means like there's a lot of different things that can affect the older workers being discriminated against because of their age.
What were some specific things that did it say? Some specific things that they could be discriminated against in that section you had underlined?
They could be like.
It kind of means because older people kind of have more responsibilities that they have to do.
Okay.
So maybe sometimes they're not all focused on work and they may have other things that to worry about.
Oh, like distracting them maybe from. Okay.
Yeah, when they're older, it said less motivated, so they could be less motivated. Because when you're young, you're yeah, I'm going to work and stuff, and then
you think the younger yeah, I'm going to work.
Well, they're not tired and thinking about all the things they have to do and wanting to retire and stuff.
They just have to take care of themselves. Older people have families that they have to worry about. So.
All right, yeah, and it did say that right there in the text. Okay, so then you're back on this page, and then you guys had circled a word. I noticed. Okay.
Yeah, I circled the tenure.
Tenure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at it in the sentence. The authors performed several regression analyses controlling the workers' tenure at a particular company in order to differentiate age stereotypes from the effects of long-term employment. Oh my goodness, right? That's a whole bunch of stuff, okay? So, we gotta break that down a little bit. No, we're not. So, the first part, the authors performed several analyses. So, what would you say that means in your own words?
The authors, I would say tests are not tests, what's the word, demonstrations or
demonstrations, tests, studies, or something like that, right? Okay. Controlling workers. You guys never heard of the word tenure before?
No.
So let me use it in a sentence. If you work at a company long enough, you will get tenure, and then you will have maybe more rights or things like that. So what do you think tenure is? Sometimes teachers get tenure, and sometimes in hospitals, doctors work a certain amount of time, and then they are officially considered to have tenure. Do you guys have a clue what that means now a little bit?
Is it how much money they get for retiring?
Not how much money they get.
Is it almost like a vacation? I'm thinking it's a reward.
It is kind of like a reward. When you worked at a place for a long time, sometimes if
they respect you more.
Maybe more, and then you're just it used to be you would work you teach for a while, and after 3 so years you would have tenure, and then you would have certain rights or get to do certain things that maybe newer employees wouldn't be able to do. Okay. So yeah, that's a real chunk there. So that was good. I'm glad you guys identify as you're reading things that you are stumbling on. But you did a really good job with that very first part. So continue. Nice job, ladies.
Okay, right. So in employing that strategy, managers should carefully track personnel decisions to look for patterns of age discrimination. Increasing opportunities for employees of all ages to work side by side could help reduce negative stereotyping. And managers could, that's not a good sentence. And I lost my place.
That's good. That's my power. Go ahead, continue. You're doing a great job.
I found for employees all ages to work side by side so they could reduce
and they also said how at the same age, so you wouldn't put an 18-year-old next to a 40-year-old because they wouldn't get along as well if you put two 18-year-olds next to each other.
So is that what the article is suggesting you do? You don't put...
That's what that paragraph suggested you do, but yes, it's saying kind of how some of the younger people are getting hired because they have the youth and they have their health still, and they can go much farther.
Okay.
With the old people, they're kind of just staying.
Marketing, they're almost a little more convincing.
Yeah, they have that young, excited joy.
Is that what it said that? What part of the text said that?
It didn't really say that. That was kind of an inference.
So show me what led to that. Led you to think that?
Other older employees get a bad rap in the workplace because they're promoting their. They favor youthful potential over experience.
Okay.
Mine is the 6 stereotypes that it says here. Number 1, less motivated. Number 2, less willing to train in career programs. 3, more resistant to change. 4, not as trusting, more likely to experience health problems, and more vulnerable to work-family conflict.
So you based that inference then really on actual stuff from the text.
So yeah, like normally if you were to like go to like a place where like a restaurant or something and you saw a young person, they might be like more like talkative, they might talk to you and like ask you how you're doing. Where if like a older grumpier person,
An older grumpier person.
Here, have your food and eat it.
Oh, I hope no one ever treats you like that in a restaurant. Okay, so does it feel like you guys are like understanding this article as you're going through? You're doing a good job, I noticed, breaking it down, and I like when you stop and you guys kind of talk about like what it is that you just read. I think that's helping your comprehension, so keep it up.
It's fun to participate in the training exercises. Okay, so bottom line, most stereotypes about older workers don't hold water. As the average age of labor force continues to rise, managers should shed several long-held misconceptions about older employees, de-emphasize age in personnel decisions, and take a more active approach to celebrating the positive attributes of highly experienced employees. I think we need to underline that whole thing because that was basically a summary of what this whole thing is about. Okay, now let's go to the cover ranks. Who wrote this article? Thomas W.H. and Daniel C. Feldman.
We also want to make sure that we are kind of underlining. It helps us be active readers too, okay? So kind of like, could we go back maybe to the first page and then we could work on looking at, if we could find one thing to underline that we think maybe in that first part that like kind of is related to what this article is talking about. You do that too. Do you have a pen or pencil? Or would you just underline like one thing? That's the main idea. You're good.
Might respond better to less.
So like just that first part. And then Michael, you're doing key ideas, right? Awesome. Okay.
So
There.
Let's see. Which one did you do? That one? Okay. Do you need the beanbag? Are you okay? Do you want the beanbag or are you okay? You want the beanbag? Okay.
Might respond better to less.
So can you guys tell me, I want to hear from you guys like what you thought on that first page was something that was important that you think's a key idea. Michael, why don't you go ahead and do that?
I underlined that the authors found empirical support for only one of those stereotypes. Older workers on average are indeed less likely to engage in career development.
So kind of trying to like sort through all of this. What do you think is the main idea? Kind of like what is this about, like in general?
Old stereotypes about how they work.
Okay, and then as you guys are going through some of that hard stuff, and there's going to be talking a little bit more about that. So I want you guys to continue. You're doing a good job, but I would like you, like on this back page, as you're going, remember that underlining of the key ideas because it really helps you when you go back to answer some of these questions and kind of talk about it. It'll help guide your discussion. Okay, is that a deal? Okay, thank you.
So I'll read.
I know, because this is what it was. It was originally published in this magazine, like this journal at this time, and then it was reposted on this webpage at that time. Did you know it already?
I said that.
Well, Well, that's a good catch because you would say to yourself, like, when was this published? Like, how do I really know, like, when this was published, right? Okay, so good. Those are good critical questions you guys are asking people.
I don't think this is a credible source. Why not? Because it says volume 65 and number 4.
Number 4.
I think it's in the 65. It's in the 65th book. It's on chapter 4, something like that. Okay, so do you think this is the credible source? What do you guys know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm trying to get him to
Feels like it probably
Because it's by like universities, publishes.
Okay, so yes.
They seem smart.
Yes.
The people from like China.
Can I do just a quick check? Can you have your voices off for 1 second? You should be at this point working on the questions, right? You should be to a point where you've kind of sorted through the article or you're close to the end of that, and now you're kind of going through, talking through some of those critical questions. I would ask you to kind of be a timekeeper. Keep your eye a little bit on the clock. I'm going to give us maybe 10 or so, more minutes, a good pace, so we can have some closure. And I'm gonna, just want to talk about a couple of these questions at the very end. Okay, so keep going. You're doing a great job. I hear a lot of wonderful discussion. I just want to make you aware of the time and to kind of let you know where you should be right now. All right. So this one. Now, if I go into a courtroom and I say, yes, I am credible because I have facts and statistics to back up what I'm talking about. Do I win? Why not? Oh, I have to actually give the facts? Okay, can you guys do that for me? Yep, so that's good, right. But now I need you to tell me which ones are like showing that they're credible, right?
In the text it said.
Yep, there you go.
In 2010, in the U.S.
55% of U.S. employees.
Oh, right, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we know it's a real thing.
55% of U.S. workers were over the age of 40. Were over the age of 40.
That were 40 plus in age.
You saw that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do that for me because you're right. You were able. I love that you were able to go right back to that place in the text and just tell me about that. But that's like the good stuff that supports your thinking. All right.
So, do you guys want to finish this and then add that in?
Back to that.
I'm just going to put it in parentheses. The U.S. something borough.
Yeah. So you think this is a credible source? What evidence from the text helps us determine if this information is trustworthy? Now, some groups I've been going to have just been saying, well, there's facts and statistics in it. And I say, like, I can't just walk in somewhere and say, I have facts and statistics, so, you guys should believe me, right? What do I have to do?
You have to back it up.
Yeah, right, with, like, the real stuff. So that's what I would challenge you to do with that first one. Find something from the text that actually shows you that these authors are people we should be believing. Does that make sense?
Okay, so they show evidence to match up, to back up their data. Yes.
And they got great data. They give like real world examples. Like in 2010, according to U.S. Bureau of Labor, 55% blah blah. So they give like real world evidence.
So the evidence. Wait, what are you gonna say? The evidence they use.
The evidence they use.
Oops, I spelled that
is
wrong.
like real world problems.
No, how about the evidence? No, the evidence. We can put like
is
the evidence data. No, the facts that they present are backed up by
real world
data. No, like the facts they present is backed up by real world evidence.
Yeah. Okay. So
and evidence that makes sense.
Facts.
The facts and statistics.
The facts they state are backed up with real world evidence.
Such as blah 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 blah.
Evidence. And also, was I the person? Were you the person that was telling that you could start a sentence with "and"?
Yes, and you cannot.
Oh, no, they just started a sentence with "and."
That doesn't mean it was right.
Yes, it is.
No.
Ha.
No, you cannot.
Yes, you can.
No,
Under
you can't.
some certain circumstances, you can stand. You can't.
No. See, the line.
Oh, where's that?
Like my dad, I remember one time my dad, he was talking about, because he was like, someone, like an older man, he got like fired and they replaced him with like a really young woman, and he was like, they shouldn't have done that, they should have kept him because he was a really good worker or something like that. That was a really long time ago though. But I just remembered that because it's something to
Okay, we should read the other lines to make sure.
Do we pass it stealthily or change the route away from it? Do we will it to become like ourselves? The young people really don't want to become the old people, so no. Do we communicate to it, let application knowledge it for barriers to fall down?
So it's kind of it too, because we communicate it. It's like saying, do we like
talk to it?
Yeah, and like the application knowledge, like they wanted the studies to show that the younger people were better because they wanted more younger people.
Yeah, because they want people like that are young and fresh and have like a positive
that it's
outlook.
not true. They're like hoping for it so they can like have new and start fresh.
Our key idea is like sort of like the main gist or what this is about.
Kind of like the bottom line.
Oh, yeah, okay, read the bottom line thing. That's a good use of your text features. What's the bottom line?
Most stereotypes are water. Average. And then statistics. So, our Haley experience.
So, people should
The bottom
hire.
line is that people don't hire older, like they use younger people.
All right, stop. Beautiful. Get it down on your paper. We're gonna stop it at that one, right? Okay. I know, right? You know me. I'm just making sure. Right here. Good.
So, what?
People.
Employers.
We'll put employers.
Managers typically favor youthful
Employers.
potential over experience.
Yeah.
Employers.
Employers. Hire.
And then you're gonna leave that one and move on because I know you girls with your details. You're good, but you can be on that forever, right? Add in the perfect words. You're good. All right. Which one did you guys do? Choice 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then we're thinking we're gonna do we will it to go away, and we're gonna match it up with like we're gonna find out text evidence.
Okay. Well.
Willing old people to like we're stop hiring them.
All right, then do that. I'm gonna step away while you do that. That sounds great.
Okay, so
The line from
Which one did you guys choose for this?
Illustrates how the workers are being treated.
Topic 2. All right, so the lines are, do we work for it to disappear? Okay, so then you have to tell me why you selected that line and relate it to this text, right?
It to go
Okay, so
away, or do we kill it? I'm very good at movies.
Like the bosses of like some companies kind of want like the older workers to disappear. So
And they
like,
want
replace
they want like facts that say like the younger people are better than the older people, but like there are young.
okay, so get that into writing on here as supporting, and then maybe even strengthen that with what you just said, finding something from here that like could support that. I like that. Okay. How are we doing?
So what did you say?
Okay, so
So there's like they're trying to find facts that the younger people
Yep, keep
are
working
like better
boys
than the
together.
older people.
I'm looking, I'm gonna stop this in about
so many companies.
minutes or so. I'm gonna talk a little bit, okay? You gotta make it to 4. Okay.
the author's post several explanations.
That was positive.
Wait, what is positive?
That's one of those hard words. Circle it.
Positive? What is like positive? The opposite of positive several. I guess like it shows. Shows. That's my guess.
All right, can I have you guys pause for 1 second? This is going to be the 2-minute warning, right, before we have our closure. But listen up, I know that some of us, you're working through the article, it's really hard. You may not get to that creative piece. If you don't get to it today, that'll be the first thing we'll start as our warm-up tomorrow. So don't stress if you're not to that piece. I would like you to try to get through the 4 questions, and I'm looking around, most of you are to that point. And then you got just 2 minutes, and then I'm going to come back together, and we're going to kind of talk through some things, and we'll follow up with the creative piece a little bit tomorrow. Okay, so continue.
Here, I'm gonna ink it. Represents text where
I didn't see that.
saying reconsider
Where one can see the difference. Like one type of
yeah, like it's saying are we gonna write explanation? Oh yeah.
I forget context.
Okay, yeah, we'll write that one. Okay, guys, do you get that? Get away from me.
Order for one from some freezing cold.
Okay.
There we go. I got it back.
Give you a choice too. No, I just wrote the wrong.
Done.
I just wrote the wrong title down.
In my gap, it is talking about how the older think that the young is disrespectful and rude, whereas in strategy of the old stereotype, that's a strategy of the older workers, the young were judging the old on how they work, that they don't work as good as well. That's good.
I said, in mine, yeah, he's talking about how the older think that the younger is disrespectful and rude, where in stereotypes of the older worker talks about how the younger people are judging the older based on their work ethic, even though most of their judgments are wrong.
I like how you're tying it all in.
Okay, that's the last question, right? Based on the information presented in stereotypes and the older worker, why is it important to study the relationships between the young and the old?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was 2 minutes, believe it or not. I need you all to put your pencils down, end your conversations, even if you're kind of in the middle of a spot, it's okay. And we need to do that quickly, so pencils down. Thank you. And nice. Oh, show me your great and amazing posture, right? And eye contact. Okay, pencils down, not even in your hands, you'll be tempted. All right, and then we're going to do whole class. We're going to kind of just listen. I just want to kind of talk through it. I went around to each group and checked in, so I feel like you're getting an understanding, but I want to make sure that we kind of all come together and talk about it real quick. So first off, credibility. Who can very quickly tell me, with some evidence, why we think this would be or would not be a credible piece? Okay, Gracie.
This is a credible source because they did a lot of research on the topic, and like, in many places they said like, in 2010, according to the U.S. Bureau, and like after researching several databases and stuff like that.
So you pulled the actual content. This group over here, what was another thing that you guys said was a credible thing? Like the first thing you wrote down why you thought it was credible?
The authors were from a university.
Yeah, the authors were connected with a university, so those types of things when you're looking at it. Key idea, who can very succinctly tell me what the key idea of this piece is? Like the main key idea is what? Erin?
Employers hire youthful employees over older ones.
Okay, that's part of it, right? And what did you have, Evan?
Stereotypes about old people or misconceptions.
Okay, and I think if you meshed kind of like what you two had together, it relates definitely to our workplace there. Okay, so comparing the text, who can, and I think I want someone from this table maybe, right? Evan or Anthony, what, you guys did the what do we do with a variation poem, because that's our anchor text for this unit. What line did you select and why?
We chose Do We Will It to go away because like they kind of like didn't want the old people to be working anymore.
Who's they?
The employers.
Okay. Did you guys find something specifically from your text that related to that? So you had Do We Will It to go away, and then what from the informational text did you guys have to support that, Omni?
We kind of wrote down like they want the old to leave. We consider widely held like misconceptions that led often to age discrimination.
Okay, relating it to age discrimination and kind of maybe going back and maybe like if we had more time and in a future lesson we might want to go back and just like expand on that, make sure like we explain that in our own words. But I really like that line you selected. That's a really good selection. I think it fits very well with this piece. Okay, did anyone do Mind the Gap? How does it relate to Mind the Gap? Did we do that one? A lot of you were. Avi, what did you guys say about that?
Just one. We said it relates because, like, Mind the Gap was telling like the old people's side, kind of how they see, and then they were like the stereotypes of older workers is telling the younger side like what they think, and so like they kind of fit, like the old and the young, what they think about each other.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now this was really, really hard, and you guys really worked superbly, like going through and breaking things down. I saw you employing a lot of good reading strategies as you were going through. We're gonna finish up first thing tomorrow because I do want to hear your creative pieces, and I want to give you a little bit of time to think about that a little more critically. So we need to pack this up and keep it in your folders. You guys can move back to your seats. Great job today. So did you guys put it, did you save it on the Forte for me? It's saved, so we can print it tomorrow, right? Okay. All right, make sure you have cleaned up around you and you are not leaving things on the floor, please.